Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here, and in this video I want to look at the chart of Lauryn Hill of the Fugees, and she was also a solo artist. Guys, don't forget to hit the like button, and please subscribe if you have not already. And this is by request. Somebody asked for this one, so. All right. Okay. I used to listen to the Fugees just out of interest, and I do think she's an amazing rapper. She's a good singer, great songwriter, great rapper. That's my opinion. Okay. She's an American singer, songwriter, rapper, and record producer. She is often regarded as one of the greatest rappers of all time, as well as being one of the most influential musicians of her generation. She's credited for breaking barriers for female rappers, popularizing melodic rapping, and bringing hip hop and neo soul to pop music. She's a member of was a member of the Fugees, and then she had her one big album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, and it became one of the best-selling albums of all time. She's won many awards, 8 Grammy Awards, the most for a female rapper to this day. She started in the Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit, so she was in quite out there with a number of successes, movies, music. Pras, Michelle, and his cousin Wyclef Jean, they were Haitian refugees, and that's where they got the name Fugees. They're a pretty groundbreaking rap hip hop band, and they're really good. Still, if I would recommend one song to listen to of Lauryn Hill, it's an early Fugees song at Vocab on their first album, which was not super successful, but it really captures her skill, her talent, and the rawness of the original music. The second album was way more popular, more overproduced, and it's just like the more radio friendly music gets, the more soulless it becomes. The first album, even though it was much less popular and much more criticized, it was still a much better album in my opinion. The score. So go listen to the Vocab. Yeah, she had her hit song "Killing Me Softly," which I don't like. I'll just be honest, I don't like it. This is like too radio friendly, soulless. I mean, who cares, really? And she's, in my opinion, her singing is really not her best attribute. It's her rapping and her songwriting, and she should have stuck more to that, of course. But she's gonna do what she wants. She collaborated with Nas on "If I Ruled the World." And she composed a song for Aretha Franklin, "A Rose Is Still a Rose." And she had a relationship with Wyclef Jean, and that led to the split of the band. And then she did her solo album, and her solo album was released to widespread acclaim. It had some hit songs. It debuted at #1 on the US Billboard 200 with the highest first week sales for a debut album by a woman in the 20th century. Lead single "Doo Wop That Thing" debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and made her the first artist to have debuted at #1, blah, blah, blah. I mean, she was pretty successful, very young, at a very young age, right? As well as the first female rapper to have reached #1 on the chart. Hill set a record for most nominations, One Night for a Woman, with 10, while winning 5 awards, including Album of the Year, becoming the first hip-hop artist to win the award. Let's see. She released another album, which was met with much more critical reviews, MTV Unplugged number 2.0, but it was certified platinum. It was ultimately successful. It just wasn't as radio friendly or as polished or as, you know how the critics are. They just want everything to be like gross, soulless bubblegum crap that's radio friendly. So anyway, whatever's really super popular is the lowest of the low. That's just basically the way it goes. Like, If anything, like if the masses love something, it's to be avoided. It's garbage. Whenever the masses love something, that's pretty much garbage. I mean, you know that. I mean, there's probably so much that could be said that would defy that, but a lot of times that holds true. I mean, I like some popular music, of course. I think Michael Jackson is excellent, but I mean, there's still an element of that is very true. I mean, I just brought up Michael. There's many exceptions, obviously. Right. Billboard ranked her 7th on the 10 best rappers of all time, Hill being the only woman on the list. She's earned several Guinness records, diamond certificate. Okay, so anyway, you get it. She was born in New Jersey to a very musical family. She had one brother. She's Baptist. And music was just, she grew up with music. Her father sang at a nightclub, and her mother played the piano, and she listened to tons of music. And she performed when she was young and was already, gaining popularity. I have to speed through this just for time's sake, obviously, as I always do. Okay. Well, freshman in high school, she through mutual friends, she met Praz Israel. He was Haitian, and his cousin Wyclef Jean, and they formed the Fugees. The initial name for it was the Translator Crew or something. Translator Crew, yeah. She was initially only a singer, but then she learned to rap, and she preferred male rappers like Ice Cube, a fellow Gemini. Okay. She also took acting lessons, and at the same time was acting, and she did a hip hop rendering of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, and she was noticed. She began appearing in soap opera as The World Turns. She co-starred along Whoopi Goldberg in Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit. She sang some songs in it and did a freestyle rap, and then it wasn't even scripted, but she was amazing, apparently. Performed marvelous against type, blah, blah, blah. Okay. They named their group the Fugees, and Lauryn Hill became involved with Wyclef Jean, and they signed and they released the score, but overall it sold poorly and was met by critical reviews to their management's insistent on adapting gangster rap attitudes. I mean, I don't really find them hyper aggressive. If you listen to the score, it is more aggressive, but it's like very skillful, very, very talented, and the cultural influence of the Haitian, cousins. I don't know, makes it a little softer. I never found it offensive. When I do find a lot of gangster rap just too aggressive, but I found the score to be, and I was listening to it back in the day. I liked it. And like I said, Vocab, fantastic song. And Lauryn Hill's by far the best rapper out of the three. I mean, Pras was not that great, and Wyclef Jean is only okay. I mean, he's good, but she's great. I mean, I would have loved to have heard a collaboration with her and Tupac. Tupac being the best male rapper in my opinion, and I would say Lauryn Hill is probably the best female rapper. So that would have been awesome. And I wish she had done more rapping than singing. That's my personal opinion. In any case, their second album won a Grammy for the best rap album. It was on the Rolling Stones 500 best albums of all time. Wait, are we talking about? All right, maybe that was the score. Wait, which is the second album? Yeah, the score is the second album. Okay. My bad. Blunted on Reality is the first album. All right. And the score was like, yeah, they had a bunch of hit songs and like, you know, Killing Me Softly. It's just a radio hip hop song. Like, I don't, who cares? In my opinion, it is like kind of lack any depth, but people like radio friendly songs that just appeal to like the bubblegum idiot masses. Let's see here. She was only 21 and she was living at home, and she was still like not sure what she was going to do, but then the album sold millions. And I guess she moved out. I guess she realized that that's what she's going to be doing for the rest of her life. And let's see, she did the band split up after that because I don't know, I guess Wyclef Jean was seeing somebody else, and then she met Bob Marley's son, Rowan Marley, and got involved with him, and she became pregnant, and they had first kid, and then she has 6 kids total, just 5 with Rowan Marley. I don't even know who the 6th kid belongs to, but belongs to her, I guess. Then she went solo and recorded The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, and that was very well received and huge success. And yeah, and she had some hit songs from that. Blah blah blah, won tons of awards. And then she went into exile. She began writing a screenplay for Bob Marley, The Life of Bob Marley, producing a romantic comedy, and accepted starring in the role film adaptation of Toni Morrison's novel Beloved. She later dropped out of both projects due to pregnancy. She also reportedly turned down acting roles in the remake of A Star is Born. Lady Gaga took the role. Dreamgirls, Beyonce took the role. Charlie's Angels, Lucy Liu took the role. The Bourne Identity, The Mexican, The Matrix Reloaded, and The Matrix Revolutions. So she turned down major roles, like huge roles that would have like made millions of dollars for her. So she dropped out of the public eye. The pressure of fame began to overwhelm her. She disliked not being able to go out in public without being noticed or caring about her appearance. She fired her management team and attended Bible study classes 5 days a week. She stopped doing interviews, watching television, listening to music. She started associating with her spiritual advisor named Brother Anthony. And he more resembled a cult leader than a spiritual advisor, according to some. And controversial public behavior. She was later described, people need to understand that Lauryn Hill they were exposed to in the beginning was all that was allowed to in that arena at the time. I had to step away when I realized that for the sake of the machine, I was being way too compromised. I felt uncomfortable about having to smile on someone's face when I really didn't like them or even know them well enough to like them. For 2-3 years, I was away from all social interaction. It was very introspective time because I had to confront my fears and master every demonic thought about inferiority, about insecurity, or the fear of being Black, young, and gifted in this Western culture. All right. She's pregnant with her 3rd child. She unveiled new material for a small crowd in MTV Unplugged special, and it was a live album, MTV Unplugged 2.0, and it was heavily criticized, but it was also applauded by some, and it was just very different. It's not what they were expecting. They want this commercial, polished, overproduced, radio-friendly, billboard topping garbage crap that they're used to. but it wasn't that. Unplugged 2.0 is a sparse and often grueling listen, but there's enough genius shading through these rough sketches to suggest that all might not yet be lost. The album was later certified platinum, so it sold pretty well. And one of her songs, Mystery of Iniquity, was nominated for Grammy Award for Best Female Rap Solo Performance. Kanye West used that song for one of his songs, and he credited her. Rowan Marley and her have a tumultuous back and forth relationship. During a performance in Vatican City, she spoke of the corruption, exploitation, and abuses in reference to the molestation of boys by Catholic priests in the United States and the cover-up of offenses by Catholic Church officials. And bravo for that, because I mean, that is, you know, I mean, on the surface, the Catholic Church preaches like this puritanical dogma that nobody can really live up to, and then behind the scenes they're like having sex with children. It's like the highest level of hypocrisy you can possibly imagine. And why not just relax their dogma and stop raping boys, right? And like hitting on women who are dressed modestly and blaming them for it. You know, all this corruption, it's just dirty disgustingness. And I'm not saying it's only the Catholic Church. A lot of religion, especially the really dogmatic, uptight religions, have that kind of thing. So yeah, and it should always be. And a lot of, I'm not a fan of religion, because it's just full of corruption and dogma and hypocrisy. In any case, I'm a fan of a healthy relationship with God, but we don't need the church and the preachers and the priests and the buildings and the dogmas. I mean, think for yourself. Do it. You have your brain, you have a head, you have a heart. You can make your own relationship with God. Don't need any books. Don't need the Bible, even Old Testament, New Testament. You don't need any books, none. In any case. So, all right. What else? She did more recording. Blah, blah, blah. Dave Chappelle's Block Party. But she basically dropped out. She dropped out and just like had babies and like did some sparse recording and performing and whatnot. Had more babies, lots of babies, 6 in all. She writes music all the time, blah, blah, blah. Let's see, what else? A lot of conflicts with the law. She stopped paying taxes and was taken to court and lost the court case and had to pay a bunch of back taxes. She performs at different times and places, tours and whatnot. Writes occasional songs, I guess. I think that at some point she tried to tour with the Fugees, but that broke apart. And apparently she had a super bloated ego, wanted to be called the Empress, or at least wanted everyone to call her Miss Hill, including the Fugees bandmates, but that didn't work out very well because they couldn't, I don't think they liked that too much. And she was very, very late in a lot of her performances, and even the crowd booed her a lot. Even like 2 hours late and substandard performances and stuff like that. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of canceled performances and late performances and whatnot. But huge impact and influence. And she was, she started early, the 90s, the hip hop was still forming itself and it was still growing. It's still alive. And, I mean, not that it's not alive now, but it's like, I mean, hip hop has taken over everything, basically. For the most part, it seems like. I don't even know what's going on musically these days. I have no clue. I don't listen to anything modern. But she's highly, highly influential. All right. Look at her. Let's look at the astrology. Okay. All right. Before I forget, I just want to pull this up. Two out of bounds planets, Mercury and Venus. And her Mercury is very, very slow, even slower than mine. So that's important. We'll just keep that in mind. Excuse me. Sun in Gemini, fellow Gemini. All right, a lot of rappers are Geminis. I love Geminis because I'm a Gemini sun anyway. Gemini sun conjunct South Node, and so like in the 10th house. I mean, for early success, this is like excellent. This is perfect, right? I mean, as a rapper, as a songwriter, right? Because Gemini's the words, the communication, the language, the skills, the talent, the writing, communication. 10th house is career. South Node, early rise. Like 21, she was already famous. 21, it was already the score, the Fugees, right? The huge success, millions of dollars already. 21, okay, that's fantastic, right? Mercury here. This Mercury is super, super strong because it's Mercury in Gemini, Mercury in the 10th house, so it's angular along with the sun in South Node. It's super slow. We'll just check that out. 2 days. It goes retro station in 2 days. So it's about to go retrograde. But it's incredibly slow. And what else? It's also out of bounds. So out of bounds means it's just pushing the envelope. It's groundbreaking. This is a groundbreaking Gemini, and she's groundbreaking. She's doing things, but go listen to the vocab. You'll hear it. Like her way of rapping is excellent. Like her songwriting, her ability to express herself is just. I mean, it's not only the words, it's how she says the words. It's the rap plus the musicality of it. Her intonations, her it's like she's dancing with her words. It's really amazing. Like I say, and other people have said, like the best rapper of all time. My opinion, better than Nicki Minaj or Cardi B. Yeah, so extremely prominent Gemini. It's also Mercury is also her ascendant lord, right? Virgo. So this is like a superpowered Gemini for fame, for performance, for songwriting, and rapping. These are all mercurial Gemini things, right? And let's see, Mercury is opposite the moon. This is a full moon. Moon in Gemini, moon in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius also mutable, so still very, very powerful, very strong. And let's see, the cusp, yeah, so this is the 10th whole sign house, but Gemini is also ruling the 11th house cusp, so, groups, networks, bands, all that sort of thing. Social issues, career success, that's all very strong. So 10th and 11th house. Sun is ruling the 12th house, so the creativity, the imagination is incredibly strong here. There's some tension. There's a lot of tension here, in fact, with the sun in the South Node to Saturn and Venus, as well as Jupiter. And you can see that there's these two strong squares here, and followed by midpoints. So this is rhythmic. You have to realize that the rhythm is part of it, because these are all equidistant from each other, and midpoints create a pattern, and patterns play out in real life. So when somebody has these rhythmic patterns, guess what? They're going to be good with rhythms. Depending on, like, you can see it in like arts, or like if somebody's a painter, or if somebody's a musician. If their planets are equidistant from each other, or in some rhythmic pattern, that rhythm, that pattern is going to play out in real life, and it's going to express in the way they express themselves. So she's very rhythmic. Even though these are tense, it's still quite good, right? Especially, we'll look at it more in detail, but I'll tell you why. But I don't want to break it up too much. But let's see. Saturn to Sun, that's difficult. I mean, Sun is more semi-square Venus, and so semi-square to Venus, I think just in general, that's going to create some indulgence, perhaps, tendency towards laziness, perhaps, just over vanity, because ego and Venus is very, I don't know, indulgent. Of course, there's going to be other factors. She's not lazy, because they're very strong Mars, and Mars is actually sextile the Sun, and this is excellent actually, because Mars is in Aries, and the Sun is exalted in Aries, so this Mars is super powered. Mars is not really doing much to Gemini, but it is just adding generally strength to this house, because Mars and Sun are they can work well together. Better for Sun than for Mars. Well, no, I mean, in some ways, Mars doesn't like to get too hot, but Mars is a malefic, so it's always going to be problematic, depending on other factors. But because Sun is exalted in Aries and Mars is domiciled in Aries, that's excellent for this. And yeah, Mars is not really doing much for Gemini, but Sun is doing a lot for this 8th house. So, but in any case, give me 1 second, guys. Take 1 second. Sorry about that. Go pee. All right. Yeah, Mars is also ruling the IC, so her home life, her childhood is very supportive, and Mars, being the planet of action and initiation, she's very driven, very hardworking, ruling the 8th house. So inheritance, but I don't think it was like monetary for her. It was musical, some kind of inheritance, because yeah, 8th house is inheritance, but also it's depth, it's psychology, it's depth, it's power, it's control, it's gritty rawness, and it makes somebody a heavyweight, right? Like if somebody has a really strong, powerful 8th house, they're not a lightweight, they're a heavyweight. They're impactful. They're gonna pack a punch. Whatever they do, if they do it well, it's going to leave a dent, and she left a dent. That's one of the, don't underestimate a strong 8th house, because that's going to make somebody very powerful and strong, right? And she has an extremely powerful 8th house and 4th house, right? And the roots, right? 4th house is roots. That's where we start. That's where we come from. So it's also very deep. These are water houses, right? So they bring a lot of soul and power, right? So yeah, the Venus, yeah, that's indulgent, but it's also conjunct Saturn, and Saturn's going to restrict that Venus. So she's not going to be like, like all like indulgent with the food and the drink and the drugs and the alcohol and stuff like that. She's very clean. Like you can just see her face. Like she doesn't, she's self-controlled with her indulgences, right? But this can be like like ego and vanity, right? Because there's some tension there with the sun. And yeah, those are more like I think with Saturn there, it's kind of limiting the expression of the Venus, but there's still tension there. And Venus is the second house, ruling the second house and the 10th whole sign house, which is interesting because Venus is okay. I mean, it's not in great dignity, but it's not in bad dignity. It's trying its exaltation in Pisces, and it has a square from exaltation Lord, Jupiter. Jupiter rules Pisces, Venus is exalted in Pisces. And so that's a square. It's more square to Saturn, but still. And Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So it's bonifying this 11th house and this Venus, which is also her voice. So her voice is okay, right? Her real skill is her rapping and her songwriting ability, right? And that's this is Mercury. And the rawness, the power, the grittiness, this very strong 8th house and 4th house that she brings. Yeah, so her MC ruled by Venus and her second house is okay, right? Saturn is benefited by Venus because Libra. Saturn's exalted in Libra. So the two, if we look at her voice, the second house, why is she a singer? Well, she's got Pluto, and well, Uranus is more going towards the 3rd house, but and that's great for expression, but just voice quality, it's Pluto, and that's okay, right? It's got an opposition to Mars, and Mars doesn't really do anything for Libra, right? Mars is the detriment lord of Libra. Pluto's okay in Libra. It's got a trine from the sun, which is generally good because trines show skill and talent but it's the sun in Gemini. And sun doesn't really do anything to Libra either because it is the debility lord. So, and like I said before, she's not considered one of the greatest singers of all time. She's considered one of the greatest rappers of all time, and overall musician, producer, songwriter. Like she's not one of the best songwriters of all time, but she does make good songs. She has excellent songwriting ability and rapping ability. But her voice is okay, right? We can see that. And the two positive lords, the domicile and exaltation lord, right? Saturn is exalted in Libra, are conjunct in the 11th house of career success. So her voice is going into groups, band, career success. So, obviously she does well in a band, but she also does well solo, right? Because, her sun and her ascendant lord and her south node are in the 10th house, and the band is more like 11th house, right? So it's solo or groups and networks, right? And there's conflict between the two, right? There's this tension between her ego, right? The sun and the planets in the 11th house, so the band. So that that played out, of course, right? And also between the ascendant and the 11th house planets, right? Semi-square. And there's the south node is square the ascendant, pretty much, as well as the both nodes, right? So she has a lot of tension just in general. I mean, this is like her, and this is her ego and her career success, and that bothers her as well. But it's also south node, so the older she gets, the more she's going to want to go home, mama, Sagittarius, truth, religion, Yeah, 8th house Jupiter, so it's like trine there. So home, out of the spotlight, being at home, that's going to be very important for her as she gets older. That happened. She dropped out. She still does stuff because there's Neptune here. She still wants to be creative. There's Moon here. And Sagittarius is certainly not opposed to music or career success or anything like that. But it is about being at home, and Neptune is creative. Moon is here. Home's where the heart is. She's happy at home, being a mama. But she'll be more interested in politics, but under in secret. She's not, because Jupiter is dispositing Sagittarius, obviously, in the 8th house. 8th house is not very it doesn't get much limelight, right? It's more about power and control underneath the behind closed doors. And so is 4th house. So she's going to be much more secretive, obviously, as she gets older. She's going to resent the fame, the fortune, not the fortune, but the fame, the overexposure. Yeah. But she's still pulling in, even though, because Moon's here and it's still pulling in the Gemini prominence. So she's still going to have that connection to, the public, the writing, the creative skills and talents, and all that comes with it. The Jupiter's trine Moon, not by degree, but by sign. So that is helpful. And Moon also is conjuncting the 5th cusp. So children are certainly being highlighted here with this Moon. Moon is mama, Moon is pregnancy, Moon is mother. Right, so that's going to be very strong for her. And Jupiter is benefited by this Mars, which is, obviously very strong in Aries. Pluto probably is a lot stronger in Aries. We haven't lived through Pluto and Aries in this lifetime, right? Pluto won't be in Aries for a while. It's about to move into Aquarius, and that's a 20-year transit, I think. So it doesn't spend the same amount of time in each sign, but let's just say 2020, that's 60 years, or 2020, that's 40 years. So 40 years from now, we'll start to get Pluto in Aries, but that's a long ways away. But in other words, that this Mars is going to be much stronger than this Pluto, and that means this 8th house of secrecy, of intimacy, of power, of psychology, of sex and sexuality. She's probably extremely sexual, but because 8th Lord is in the 8th house, she doesn't talk about it. It's not like a public thing. She's not going to expose those secrets. But she's probably very sexual, especially with Jupiter here as well. And Mars does help this Jupiter. And like I said, 4th Lord in the 8th house. She's very politically concerned, but it's secret as well. It's hidden. She's not, she wants to keep it behind closed doors, keep it under wraps. But if you talk to her, she probably has very strong political views. My sense of Lauryn Hill is that she's has this real deep intensity, and kind of resents a lot of the ways of modern life in the world. She got into trouble with even after the Fugees in her own The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, her solo album, because she didn't properly credit the other musicians who took part in it, and they sued her, and they won. She paid them like $50,000, and that was a source of resentment for her. But you can see a lot of conflict here, right? Saturn's ruling the 5th whole sign house and the 6th. So particularly the 6th, because that's conflict in groups and networks, conflict with the Fugees, conflict with the team that helped her with her solo album. It's square Jupiter, and Jupiter, the square to Jupiter is probably not as bad as the semi-square to the sun in the south node and the north node. See, the Saturn is in difficult aspect to both these nodes. So whether it's south node or north node, she's like constantly butting heads with Saturn, which is authority, structured in the groups and networks, the team, the people beneath her that are helping her. Saturn often represents both those things, the plain, mundane, kind of ordinary people, as well as the authorities and structure and leadership. And Saturn's not in good dignity here either in Cancer, right? Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius, so it's in detriment, right? It is helped by Venus, so there is some positivity. So it's not like this is just a terrible Saturn. The Venus is the exaltation lord of Saturn, but and Jupiter is the exaltation lord of Cancer. But it's a mixed bag. So like she'll have a team or a group like Fugees that'll help her, but then the conflict will come in, or the team that helped her make her album, but then later conflict will come in. So it's a mixed bag, right? And then the tension between her ego and the nodes. So that's a lot of her difficulties. And the people are often displeased with her performances when she performs live because she's late and she gives half-assed performances sometimes just because she's trying to be so raw and genuine and truthful. Sagittarius and 8th house Jupiter. But she does have a strong connection to God. She was accused of being racist at one point. She's like, how could I be racist when I'm a woman of God? I believe in God. And God created everything on this planet. So I would have to reject God if I was going to be racist, according to her. That's what she said. I'm paraphrasing. But I mean, that's a very good understanding, and it's true, right? We'd have to reject God if we reject God's creation, right? If we're rejecting other races, we're rejecting God's creation, it's ignorant. Racism is ignorant. Classism is ignorant. All the isms, the negative, hateful isms are ignorant. Of course they are. Right. Jupiter is ruling the 7th house. So her 7th lord is going to the 8th house. That's very intimate. She likes to be intimate with her partners, and obviously, that includes sex. But I mean, obviously, but intimacy is much more than sex. It's about really becoming close. So 7th lord in the 8th house is really bonding with your partner very deeply, and that's helped by this Mars in Aries, because that's benefiting this whole house. Although Mars, whether it's in Aries or Scorpio or Capricorn, it's always going to be difficult, especially when the sun is in classical Hellenistic astrology. If it's a day chart, then Mars is the functional malefic, and it's problematic, right? Because it's too hot, right? So Mars is still going to be a troublemaker, but it's going to be more well behaved, and Mars in Aries can be very aggressive, but this is 8th lord in the 8th house is sort of like, it's going to be secret, it's going to be hidden, so you're not really going to see it very well. You're not going to see her real strength. But Mars in Aries is a fighter, right? You get close enough, and plus this Pluto, doesn't matter if it's in Libra, Pluto opposite Mars, that's intense. That's a very willful type combination that was very, very intense, very, very strong. Whatever she does, she's going to put a tremendous amount of action, willpower. I guess, it's interesting because she's very kind of late to certain things, and I wonder why. Maybe that's fourth house. Neptune, North Node conjunct Neptune, creative, but kind of just overly. Neptune in Sag is very expansive, right? Because both Sagittarius and Neptune is very it's like outer space, like very imaginative, very creative. Some people say Neptune is exalted in Sagittarius because that has the resonance with Jupiter, and Jupiter and Neptune both rule Pisces, so it has a kind of Piscean feel to it, but in reverse almost. Neptune's not in Pisces, it's in Sag. It's interesting. Yeah. Not exactly sure why maybe it's the Venus semi-square sun, which makes her overly egotistical and indulgent. That could be something to do with it. She has quite a bloated ego. A lot of times these stars do. But South Node conjunct the sun as well tends to reject society, even if it's not in this location, because the sun does represent our connection to society and our worldliness, right? And when it's South Node, it's just like they just go off the beaten path. These are the type of people to just walk off in the woods and just say, fuck it all, like I'm just gonna go do my own thing because I'm just done with society. And that definitely happens, and literally, they like to go live in the woods. They like to go just be, complete bohemian lifestyle type, things like that. Let's see, where was I? Jupiter is ruling the 7th and fourth whole sign, 5th cusp quadrant. So definitely the kids and relationships. And so there's difficulty with the relationships. It's, she has both Saturn and Jupiter have difficult aspect with the nodes, right? And they're square each other. Jupiter is more beneficial to Saturn than Saturn is to Jupiter, because Saturn doesn't do anything for Aries. Saturn is debilitating in Aries, right? So Saturn's not really helping this Jupiter, but Jupiter is helping the Saturn because Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, right? So her groups and networks, despite having issues, is still going to be beneficial. But this Jupiter is helped by this Mars, because this Mars is strong and it's domicile, right? So it's interesting, right? It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, right? Her sun in general is very, very strong, as well as the Mercury and the Mars. This is Chiron here in the 9th house. So she's certainly going to have issues with religion, with philosophy, even though she believes in God, even though she is a kind of quite a religious person. Chiron, especially in bad aspect, Chiron's opposite Uranus. So that is a painful generational aspect that a lot of people have, including myself. Depends on what house it is, but certainly there's going to be pain around religion, organized religion, and education. She was an excellent student, by the way, straight A student. She's very academic, very smart, intellectually gifted. That's Gemini, opposite moon, Gemini sun, Mercury ascendant, Aquarius, Virgo ascendant. Yeah. So where was that? Chiron, Uranus, right. So definitely there's some issues here, pain around religion, which she expressed, and then Uranus in the 3rd. So her expression, her communication, her words, her language, it's going to be very Uranian, quite shocking, quite unique, quite independent, quite rebellious, and you know, like kind of genius, inventive, you know, the brilliance of the Uranus. Also, Uranus deals with rhythm, the beat. Now. So that's really excellent for rapping, for being rhythmical and music in general. So again, yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, I mean, so like, and then let's see, Moon is trying Chiron. So she has a pretty good relationship with the underclass, the underbelly, the dirty underwear of society, the wounded, rejected type people. She likes them. She feels close to them, moved by them, moved by the plight of those who are suffering. And she did a lot of work helping with those people. Right. So yeah, super talented, a lot of conflict as well. You know, getting in trouble for avoiding taxes and stuff like that, fighting against the man. And then if we look at her draconic chart, just look at all the blue. It's like all trines. Why? Because her node is at 0 degrees, air sign. South node, 0 degrees, Gemini. Draconic south node, 0 degrees, Libra. Exactly trine, powerful trine, right? So again, trines are talent, trines are skills. So this is very talented, you know, draconic chart. And her draconic chart represents the sort of the hidden face, the hidden spiritual side of herself that's doesn't come out, but it's a more subtle inner quality that's still relevant and still there. Mars, Jupiter, and Chiron in Leo in the 12th house is a very creative combination. Sun in Libra. Sun is not great in Libra, but this is the second house. So definitely singing is, you know, something that she feels very she wants to shine at, even though her voice is not top tier. It's fine. It's passable, obviously, right? But it's not like world class. Her rapping is world class. Her voice is good. And her songwriting is very good. But she likes to sing because her that's where her sun is. That's where her inner light is shining in the second house, as well as her Mercury in Libra. And this is, you know, Mercury and Uranus combinations are genius because they're both intellect, and the mind just becomes electrified. It just like produces, you know, ideas and very original thinking. This is second, third house influence. So for singing, songwriting, expression, rapping, all that. Excellent, you know. I'm just gonna pull out relevant stuff. It's not all super relevant. I mean, Uranus Aquarius, that's quite great, good, you know, kind of shocking expression. More 8th house stuff. Likes to be hidden but powerful, secretive, occult minded. She probably believes in occult stuff but doesn't let it out because 8th lord in the 8th house keeps a lot of secrets. She's very secretive, so there's a lot that we don't know about her. She keeps her secrets. Versus me, I tell all my secrets because I have 8th lord in the 7th house. So 8th lord in the 8th house keeps their secrets. 8th lord in the 7th house or the 10th house, they're not going to keep secrets, right? I don't keep secrets. I tell secrets. That's what I'm doing with astrology. I'm telling you all the secrets of the 8th house. She keeps all the secrets of the 8th house. She could be, you know, she could be involved in magic and occultism, all sorts of stuff like that. Astrology. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, that's pretty much it. Very creative. And then we see where really, you know, why she loves to sing so much, because Pluto, I think, is okay for the voice, but definitely not great. It's not like Jupiter and Mars. Sun, Venus, that sort of thing will you know, help the second house much more than Pluto. But Draconic Sun, that makes a lot of sense, for her being such a singer. I would like to see her rap more than sing personally, like I said before, but anyway, her preference is singing more than rapping. All right. That's it for Lauryn Hill. And I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit the like button if you did. And subscribe if you have not already. Leave a comment down below if you feel like it. And book a reading with me. My website is macroastrology.com. My email is macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. And that's it for now. Thanks. Bye.